For more on this story, our correspondent Noga Tarnopolsky is standing by in Jerusalem. Noga, what more do we know about these 4 bodies that were transferred late Tuesday?
Well, about one, as you said, we don't know. The Forensic Institute says it does not believe it belongs to a hostage. The others are a kind of wide range. There are 3 men. Most of the bodies still kept are of men. One was a soldier who was actually in the education corps. He was a teacher in the army. He was taken from his base. But in his case, the family had simply got no news of him since October 3rd. He was one of these people whose destiny was unknown. And so for his family, who kept hopes alive all these 2 years and 7 days, that he might still be among the living, this has come as a big blow. In addition, the Forensic Institute believes that he was killed in an Israeli airstrike in Gaza, as is the case for one of the 4 bodies returned yesterday, that of Yossi Sharabi. So it's a range. There's another young man who returned, Uriel Baruch, who was at the music festival, and a really random case of Eitan Levy, a man in his 50s, who had done a friend a favor, driving her down to one of the communities in the south she needed to get to. And on his way back, after dropping her off, he ran into the terrorist invasion. Israel apparently has received assurances via the mediating nations, in particular Qatar, that Hamas will expedite the return of the bodies. And that's the reason that it canceled these sanctions it had announced against Hamas when it appeared that Hamas was simply going to drag out the return of the bodies that are in its possession over days and days. In reality, the families have no assurances, and there's no deadline enshrined within the documents of the Trump plan for the end of the war in Gaza. So we'll just have to wait and see. I think it's going to be day by day. The understanding by Qatar and by Israel is that Hamas is in possession of at least 20 or 22, perhaps 25 of the 28 bodies. And so the expectation in Israel was that all of those bodies in Hamas possession would be returned by 2 days ago at noon. That was the deadline. And that there were about between 3 and 5 that Hamas wasn't sure where they were located, and that those could take more time. That's the reason we've seen the kerfuffle over the past few days.
And what are we learning from the 20 living hostages who were released Monday about the conditions of their captivity?
So it's an extremely wide range of conditions, which is itself interesting. For example, the oldest hostage released alive, Omri Mimran, was kept under relatively humane conditions. He was in an apartment for part of the time. He had decent captors. He played cards with them on occasion in the mornings. He said he did not return in conditions of starvation like most of the other ones are. Then there are cases such as the 2 Cunho brothers, Ariel and David Cunho, were held separate and alone for the entire 2-year period. Another freed hostage, Avinatan Or, who was released, he's the boyfriend of Noah Argamani, a very famous former hostage released last summer. He has not heard any language spoken to him in the entire 2 years. No Hebrew, no English. His captors would pass food to him with barely a word. He was kept in complete and total isolation, as were the Cunho brothers. Another set of brothers, the Berman brothers, Ziv and Gal, did not know whether they each didn't know whether the other was alive. And then in the cases of the younger men, Guy Gilboa Dalal, and others, they suffered extreme torture. They're in much more difficult shape. They were caged, many of them, for more than a year, unable to stand up or to move. And in those cases, some of them have very serious health issues that are beginning to be treated right now.